How can we transcend instant gratification? All right, that is the question for today. Welcome to my channel. My name is Thomas. I do educational videos on a number of different topics. Topics that are we will consider later, but mainly academic topics that have a different twist to them that make them a lot more fundamental. But in order to first present those topics, I wanted to do a unit here at the beginning on the tree of life, because I feel like the tree of life is a great model that helps us to integrate our understandings and to prioritize, to make decisions more effectively. And so if we can learn the tree of life, it just makes learning all those other subjects much easier down the line. So here we go with the tree of life. This is an ancient model, goes back to at least ancient Egypt. The ancient Hebrews used it. These days it's used mainly by occultists of both the white and black variety. A lot of the evil people will use this to, cast spells and so on. But if we learn it, it'll help us to know our enemy, and so that we can defend ourselves as well. It's not bad in and of itself. It's just a piece of technology. It matters how you use it. You can see that the tree has 10 different circles or spheres that are numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's also an abyss here, an applied circle, and then a 0 above the tree, making a total of 12 different categories. And these categories basically are a map of our faculties of consciousness. So you can understand the tree of life as being really a map of our consciousness. And then to take it to another level, if you want a more advanced teaching, you can take the whole tree and you can apply it to each one of the 12. And so you break each one of the 12 down to its 12 for a total of 144. And those are really what I've developed as stages in life, or stages in history, cosmology, and spirituality. I put together a guide for that that I would be happy to share with you. If you'd like to click the link in the description, I'll send that out to you for free. But for the beginning of this video, we're going to look at the 12 different major categories, and then at the end we're going to apply our understanding to just one of the 144 of the different minor aspects or minor faculties. Okay, now when we start with the 10th sphere, we've got our survival instinct. So this is really our wild animal consciousness. It's the law of the jungle, kill or be killed, the state of nature, the fight or flight response. This is also our life force. This is our, the thing that keeps us alive regardless of our consciousness of it. Keeps us breathing, keeps our heart beating, keeps all the organs functioning. Quintillion of different functions that we don't have any control over, or at least don't have any conscious control at this point. It's possible that maybe further up the line we might develop control over that, but at this point these are all outside of our control. The only way we can control them is by inverting them, by destroying them, which we do through defilements and lusts of the body. So those are also located here. So when we get to the ninth sphere, if this is wild animal, this is really domesticated animal. This is what we get growing up in the home. And, when we get to the home, we are wide-eyed, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I suppose, so to speak, and we are absorbing everything in our influence, soaking everything up like a sponge, but particularly from our caregivers and other people that are in the home. We watch what they do intently with our heightened receptivity, and then we imitate. We learn to imitate what they do, and then we practice that imitation till we have it memorized. So that is really what goes on in the ninth sphere, and this ninth sphere, unfortunately, is not discerning. So it will copy things, imitate things, even if they're abusive behaviors, even if they're bad habits, things like that. So you pick up whatever you get from your environment without any regard for whether it's healthy or unhealthy or violent or not violent or whatever. Okay, then when we go to the asphere, the asphere is similarly blind. I guess I would say more like myopic. It's just looking in one direction instead. But the asphere, where the ninth sphere is the domestic sphere, the asphere is the public. So this is once you go out into the public, once you're old enough to go to school and go to church, go out into other public places, the rec center, the mall, the movies, probably like birthday parties or whatever, and you encounter what's called the consensus worldview or the conventional wisdom. This is a product of our establishment, the powers that be, and it's a product of the institutions, the schools and the churches and the media and the government and the all the different the doctors, all the different expert opinions, and those expert opinions filter down to the regular people. So these people are kind of standing on high. They're telling us what we're supposed to believe, and then to the extent that we follow it. And we kind of have to follow it because this is where all the resources are located. So if we don't follow what they believe, we will be shunned and frozen out of kind of the whole the whole society. And unfortunately, the belief systems that they propose to us are not necessarily true. They're true if they're convenient for them, if it's convenient, but if it's not true, they'll put a spin on it. So the asphere is a lot about a spin as well, and it can be spun upside down through rationalization. So the asphere is really about our belief systems and our rational faculties, but we can get stuck in the asphere through a negative asphere where we rationalize the powers that be, or we use circular reasoning to defend the powers that be, instead of just getting in and getting our resources and moving on to the next one. This is only the third stage, but a lot of times we treat it like it's the final stage, like this is our measure of success. But if we can continue to use our logical faculties the way that they're designed, not inverted, not using circular reasoning, not making assumptions, but to actually use them to take, things that we've learned about the environment and plug them into our own situation, then we can move on to the seventh sphere. So when the asphere is about the real world, the seventh sphere is more like the imaginary world. So this is what we imagine this could be if it were a perfect world. We're imagining a better asphere. And we also use inspiration here, where we tune into other people who've done the same thing and model our behavior on them. Maybe not 100%, but we use it as an inspiration, as motivation. We also have our intuition that we can use, where we just become curious about how could I make this better, and you will get answers from your heart, from deep inside, and these answers will be correct. Unfortunately, we might not always be able to translate them correctly, and so as a result, we have to verify what we've learned with our own experiences and what our logical faculty to make sure that we're getting the right answers. But we also have our creativity, our fount of creativity, and also our pleasure principle, being able to put things together into pleasing arrangements for other people. These are all kind of over here on this pillar here, but especially, to start with at the seventh sphere. So, and finally, we use our inspiration also to create a mission for ourselves. So this, where the A sphere is telling you, you got to go to college so you can be an engineer or you can be a banker. Here, you're cultivating yourself to the point where you, by understanding your place in your environment, how you can contribute to the world in the best possible way, and that's your higher calling. And so that is what you pursue here at the seventh sphere. You begin to pursue it, and that propels you on a spiritual path. First, going to the sixth sphere, where the sixth sphere is really our center. This is kind of like our outer center, I would say. And it is our free will faculty. So our free will boils down to mainly paying attention and making decisions. So here we examine what our attention, and most of our attention is generally directed toward the eighth and ninth sphere, down the tree, because this is what we're comfortable with. This is our comfort zone, and this is what we're accustomed to. So, and this is where most of the people are. So we pay attention to this area. But if we use the second part of free will, our ability to make decisions, we can choose to turn our backs on this kind of consensus comfort zone and put our attention up toward cultivating our higher aspects, which requires a good deal of courage, because we have to have the courage to be able to face the unknown, where we're normally just in the known world. So we have to have the courage to be able to face the unknown, face our fears. And the first one of which is the fifth sphere. So we place our attention on the fifth sphere here. The fifth sphere is really our sense of justice, our ability to give justice to people, to be able to be just, otherwise known as karma. So our karma is really basically calibrated based on violence, waste, and violation. Are we violating other people? Are we doing violence to other people? Are we wasting time or resources or whatever on the earth? And those things are what karma feeds us back. So karma is really like, cause and effect. Cause and effect. What comes around goes around. As you sow, so shall you reap. And for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You can think of this as like a mirror being here with the karma. And so when we act in an unjust manner, we get return in an unjust manner. And so, which is a bad news, but it doesn't have to be bad news, because we can turn it around if we're actually paying attention. If we're paying attention, instead of feeling like a victim, like, oh, I have the worst luck, I'm getting all these bad results. Instead, we can pay attention and say, well, actually, the reason why I'm getting this feedback is because what I inputted was violent or it was wasteful. And so we can really face ourselves, look ourselves in the mirror, and recognize that our actions are not optimal. If we clean up our own actions, we will clean up our karma and thereby clean up our, our fortune. Okay, now when we go to the fourth sphere is complementary to the fifth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the natural law or order of things. The fourth sphere is about the articulation of that natural law, which occurs in things like cosmologies. In a cosmology or an ancient holy book, it's an outline of everything that you really need to know about the universe. Who is God? Where did God come from? Or maybe not where did God come from, but where did we come from? What are we doing here? What's the purpose? Where are we going? How do we relate with all these different things in the environment, which causes us to articulate the laws of science? And so all of these things are in cosmologies. There are countless different examples of cosmologies. Some are ancient, some are new, some are better than others. Some have stood the test of time, and some have had to have been revised over time. The syncretic approach, the fourth sphere, where the fifth sphere is like analysis, the fourth sphere is synthesis. And the synthetic approach or syncretic approach is really to be able to take in as many of these different cosmologies as you can, pay attention to as many, study as many as you can, and then go within with your intuition and ask yourself, how do I make sense of all these things? How do I put them together? But you can't just do that cold. You have to put the time in. You have to do the homework first. If you just go here fresh and say, how am I going to understand cosmology, the answers that you get will be too complicated for you to understand and translate. So you have to be able to kind of familiarize yourself with the subject and the language before you get into intuition here at this level. At this level, you can go in as a novice and you can get simple instructions because the simple instructions are easier to translate. But here you need a more complicated answer, and so you need to have a more sophisticated understanding. Okay, then we go to the fourth sphere, or to the abyss, and we have, this is where our psychic powers lie. This is our ability to tune into and recognize omens. That's psychic receptivity to be able to recognize the omen, and psychic heat to be able to act upon the omen. The omen is analogous to a magnetic charge, and it is like a kind of like a beacon. It's an anomaly, a synchronicity, a coincidence, a recurring theme or a recurring number that kind of like bucks the laws of statistics. It's way outside of it's an outlier. And that should trigger us that this is something important to look on, that psychic receptivity. And then it also prescribes a course of action. And to take that action requires courage again, because we have to put ourselves out there. But if we can do that, then that's our psychic heat. This abyss is often symbolized by two serpents that are kind of weaving in and out of this middle pillar. The purple serpent is the cool snake for receptivity, and the red serpent is the warm, hot snake for psychic heat. The warm snake generally corresponds to a lunar eclipse, and the cool snake corresponds to a solar eclipse. Okay, now the 3, 2, and 1 are at the top of the tree. These correspond to our higher divine faculties. So this is omnipotence, all powerful, omniscience, all knowing, and omnipresent, all present, all at once, eternally. This is tapped into through sound. This whole side here is about sound. This is about vision or light. Okay, we get in here through synchronized sound, or I guess you call it coherent sound, and then through coherent light here. This is really our power, our potential. So omnipotence, all powerful. This is really our ability to fulfill, to get to the point where we can fulfill our mission. Okay, it's a long, long process. And we do that through chanting mantra, for example, where we use the letters of the alphabet as individual units of power. So the alphabet is not, has no meaning, but it has power. And it has the power to unlock all of our different faculties of consciousness. If we know how to untap them through repetition of mantra, we can access our different spheres. And through that, we eventually can get up here to fulfill our mission. Okay, at the second sphere, omniscience, or all-knowing, this is really about our wisdom faculty, our ability to solve problems. We'll be talking about that a little bit here today also. But the second sphere is really being able to shut our minds down in meditation and to be able to see the image of our deepest center. And the image of our deepest center is wisdom. Now, so we talk about gaining wisdom through being able to shut our mind off. Here at the A sphere, we solve problems by thinking, by turning our mind on. But the problem with the thinking is that it's shallow, and so it creates more problems than it solves. You might cut off the head of the hydra, but 2 extra heads will grow in its place. Here, your solutions are final. You can also propose solutions for other people, and you can even avoid your own problems entirely by being able to foresee or to predict or anticipate the problems. This is a lot about anticipation. Okay, then at our deepest center, the one is really the unifying factor. So when we can clear our mind so it's transparent, we can see all the way into our deepest center, or our higher self. When we see that, we have wisdom, but then eventually we can learn to sink all the way into the higher self at the center, and that is a unifying factor. It's singularity, because once we get to that deepest center, we recognize that our deepest center is the same as everybody else's, and so it links up everything, unifies everything in the universe. Okay, then the zero sphere is actually not in the universe. The zero sphere is about nothingness, and it's about the mystery. And this is a mystery because it's not part of the universe, it's what's outside of the universe, but it is part of the creator. So it's the creator's existence that we know nothing about. It's kind of like if you look at the sun, you see the surface of the sun, but you don't see anything beneath it. So that's kind of, it has another existence that is kind of below the surface, even though that might not be the right physical analogy. But it's just like the private life or the separate life of the creator. And as a result, it's very powerful, but it's also mysterious, and we're not able to tap it directly. Okay, so that is the 12 major faculties of the Tree of Life. And now we're going to try to plug some of those principles in to one of the 144 minor fractal faculties of the Tree of Life. Today we're looking at number 116. How can we transcend instant gratification? So that number 116 corresponds to a second sphere thing. So this is the wisdom faculty, our ability to solve problems through being able to shut the mind off in meditation, and then be able to clarify our minds, or elucidate our minds, or to make them clear, so that transparent, so that we can see through, so that we can see the image of wisdom. And then it also corresponds to the abyss fractal within the second sphere. So the abyss is about our magnetic charge. It has to do with omens and being able to act upon them. But primarily it's a magnetic faculty. Okay, so those two things are combined here in number 116, which is called normalizing ecstasy. Stage number 116 is about gaining control over our thoughts, not just in meditation, but in waking life, allowing us to take our moments of clarity and wisdom and expand them out to our normal waking state. Normalizing ecstasy, normalizing bliss. Normalizing ecstasy through the Sheps, the revered ancestors, where exhibits and commemorations are created, where legends and children's stories are told around the campfire about those who selflessly fulfilled their higher callings in life and made lasting contributions that are too good to be true. The Sheps themselves may become anonymous, but their stories live on because eyewitnesses strived to spread their influence to the people at large. But be careful, because this can easily be co-opted by the powers that be. Those of us who understood ourselves to the point that we were able to formulate and fulfill our sacred missions in life end up doing great things, benefiting our world in profound ways. They provide solutions to problems for the rest of us, propagating wisdom. The good news of their stories inspire all the rest of us and spread virally through word of mouth, outside the channels of power. We venerate them to spread their influence and normalize their greatness. But the powers that be will produce counterfeit heroes to counteract and drown out the true Sheps. Spreading our heart, spreading our mission to all parts of our body, to all parts of our body politic. In deep meditation, the ecstasy spreads from the third eye to the crown in a multitude of lotus petals. We see the image of wisdom and then begin to spread it. Vibrate the pineal gland at a rate that causes the light of the chamber to fill the whole body with light, and send its vibration out along the optic nerve to the physical eye. The vibration branches out at the lungs and at the stomach and is called the tree of life. Sustaining ecstasy, white tantrism, up and to the right, make it last. Solving so many of our relationship problems, the perfect matrimony, tune in infinitesimally, inner ejaculation, sustaining orgasm, keeps our ion level, keeps our temperature level low, just short of the cliff of indulgence. The ecstasy spreads to the whole body. Keep the explosions contained within the body, not without, so we can sustain our love with our one true beloved. Ecstasy or ecstatic chain reaction, slow, not sudden release of pressure. The slow burn is sustainable, not exploding, but oscillating back and forth from liquid to vapor, rather than bypassing both and moving straight from solid to gas. Staying within the time region, at least in one dimension, we experience a superconductive state of bliss that can last all day and all night as a result of normalizing our ecstasy. All right, that is the abyss fractal of the second sphere, number 116, normalizing ecstasy. We'll have more to say about that in the future, but that is a short version of one of the 144 different fractal faculties on the Tree of Life. And you can tune in tomorrow where I will be presenting another of the 144 fractal faculties, and you can play a game and try to guess which one I'm going to select and what it's going to entail. You can also, I appreciate that you stuck around to the end of the video. You can hit the like button. You can also share the video with others, subscribe to the channel, make constructive comments in the comments section. You can get my free guide to the 144 fractal faculties by clicking the link in the description. And you can even donate to me directly through Cash App and Venmo if you're so inclined. And again, stay tuned for tomorrow for a new one. And I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope to see you tomorrow.